Captain Marcus Chen adjusted his worn leather jacket as he stepped off the transport shuttle onto Station Omega-7. The bustling spaceport hummed with activity from dozens of alien species conducting their daily business. Tall, insectoid Zalari merchants haggled with crystalline Vorthak traders, while small, furry Kimpachi scurried between the larger beings carrying datapads and cargo manifests. Marcus kept his head down and moved through the crowd with practiced ease. After 3 years of living as a freelance pilot on the Outer Rim, he had learned to blend in among the galaxy's countless species. His human appearance still drew curious glances, but most beings had grown accustomed to seeing his kind scattered throughout the frontier worlds. The Galactic Council had labeled humans as primitives when first contact occurred 50 years ago. Earth's technology lagged centuries behind the established civilizations, and humanity received the status of protected species. A polite way of saying they were considered too backward to be taken seriously. Most humans accepted their place in the galaxy's hierarchy, content to serve as laborers, entertainers, or minor traders on the fringes of civilized space. Marcus was different. He had spent his childhood studying every piece of alien technology he could get his hands on. While other human children played with toys, he dismantled comm devices and analyzed energy patterns. By age 16, he could repair any starship engine in the sector. By 25, he had modified his own ship with innovations that even seasoned alien engineers couldn't understand. His ship, the Defiant Echo, waited in Docking Bay 94. The vessel looked unremarkable from the outside, a standard cargo hauler popular among independent traders. Marcus had deliberately kept the external appearance mundane while completely rebuilding the internal systems. The engine could outrun military interceptors. The shields could withstand capital ship weapons. And the sensor array could detect threats from 3 star systems away. As Marcus approached his ship, he noticed something unusual. A group of hegemony officials stood near the docking bay entrance, their purple uniforms and ceremonial weapons marking them as high-ranking members of the galaxy's ruling military alliance. The hegemony controlled over 800 star systems and commanded the most powerful fleet in known space. Their presence on a backwater station like Omega-7 meant serious business. Commander Thexval, a tall reptilian being with scales that shifted from green to deep blue, stepped forward as Marcus approached. His species, the Korathians, had served as the hegemony's primary military commanders for over 2 centuries. They were known for their tactical brilliance and absolute loyalty to the Alliance. Human Marcus Chen. Thexval's voice carried the mechanical translation common to most universal communicators. You will come with us immediately. Marcus stopped walking and studied the group. 3 Korathian soldiers flanked their commander, while 2 floating Nexari drones hovered nearby with their weapon ports clearly visible. The Nexari had replaced their biological bodies with mechanical ones thousands of years ago, becoming living war machines in the process. I haven't broken any hegemony laws, Marcus replied calmly. My cargo manifests are current, and my ship registration is valid. Thexval's head tilted in what might have been amusement. This is not about cargo violations, human. The Hegemony Council has received disturbing reports about your activities in the Kepler Nebula last month. Marcus kept his expression neutral, but his mind raced. The Kepler incident had been carefully planned to look like an accident. A Hegemony patrol ship had been harassing human colonists on the agricultural world of Haven Prime, demanding excessive tribute payments and threatening to revoke their settlement license. Marcus had used a combination of electronic warfare and precise engine modifications to disable their ship, leaving them stranded but unharmed until rescue arrived. I don't know what you're talking about, Marcus said. I was running legitimate cargo between the Vega colonies last month. The patrol ship Sovereign Will experienced complete system failure while pursuing smugglers near Haven Prime, Thexval continued. Our investigation revealed signs of advanced technological sabotage. The electronic signatures match modifications we've detected on your vessel during previous inspections. One of the Nexari drones drifted closer, its optical sensors focusing on Marcus with mechanical precision. Analysis indicates subject shows elevated stress responses, despite calm exterior presentation. Recommended action: immediate detention for enhanced interrogation. Marcus glanced around the docking bay. noting the positions of all 6 hegemony personnel. The station's automated security systems would not interfere in official hegemony business, and the other traders and travelers were already moving away to avoid getting involved. He was on his own. Enhanced interrogation sounds unpleasant, Marcus said, taking a small step back toward his ship. Maybe we could discuss this over drinks instead? Thexval's laugh sounded like grinding metal through the translator. Humans and their primitive humor. You will come with us now, or we will disable you and carry you to our ship. The choice is yours. The Korathian soldiers moved to surround Marcus while the Nexari drones adjusted their position to block his retreat. Their coordination spoke of extensive combat experience and absolute confidence in their superiority. Most beings in the galaxy would have surrendered immediately when faced with such overwhelming force. Marcus smiled and pulled a small device from his jacket pocket. It looked like a standard comm unit, but he had spent months modifying its internal components for this exact situation. You know what the difference is between humans and every other species in the galaxy? Irrelevant philosophical discussion will not delay your detention, the lead Nexari drone announced. The difference, Marcus continued, pressing a hidden switch on the device, is that we don't know when to quit. The lights in the docking bay flickered and died. Emergency power kicked in seconds later. But in that brief moment of darkness, Marcus had already moved. His modified comm device had sent an electromagnetic pulse through the station's power grid, temporarily disabling most electronic systems within a 50-meter radius. The Nexari drones crashed to the deck as their mechanical bodies shut down completely. The Korathian soldiers' weapons and armor systems failed, leaving them temporarily blind in the dim emergency lighting. Thexval fumbled for his backup communicator, trying to call for reinforcements. Marcus sprinted toward his ship, reaching the boarding ramp just as the docking bay's main power returned. Behind him, angry shouts erupted in multiple alien languages as the hegemony team recovered from their electronic blindness. The Nexari drones were already restarting their systems, their optical arrays sweeping the bay with renewed intensity. Secure the perimeter, Thexval roared. Do not let the human reach his vessel. Energy weapon fire lit up the docking bay as Marcus dove through his ship's airlock. The Defiant Echo's modified shield generators activated automatically, deflecting the incoming shots while Marcus reached the bridge. His hands flew over the control panels with practiced efficiency, bringing the ship's systems online in record time. This is station control to vessel in Bay 94, a voice crackled over the communication system. You are ordered to power down immediately and surrender to hegemony authority. Marcus ignored the transmission and engaged the ship's engines. The Defiant Echo lifted smoothly from the docking platform, rising toward the bay's atmospheric barrier. Below, Thexval was already speaking into his communicator, no doubt calling for military support. Station control to unidentified vessel. You are in violation of departure protocols. Hegemony forces are en route to intercept. Through the bridge's main view screen, Marcus could see the massive shape of a hegemony destroyer moving to block the station's exit vector. The Iron Resolve was a kilometer-long warship capable of reducing his cargo hauler to scrap metal in seconds. Most pilots would have immediately surrendered rather than face such overwhelming firepower. Marcus engaged his ship's modified stealth systems and adjusted course toward the asteroid belt surrounding the Omega system's 4th planet. The Defiant Echo vanished from conventional sensors, just as the destroyer's targeting systems locked onto his previous position. Target has disappeared from our scopes, came the confused report from the destroyer's bridge. All sensor arrays are functioning normally, but we show no contacts in the departure vector. Marcus guided his ship through the dense asteroid field, using his enhanced sensors to navigate between the tumbling rocks while remaining invisible to hegemony detection equipment. The stealth modifications had taken him 2 years to develop, combining human innovation with carefully acquired alien technology. Behind him, 3 more hegemony vessels had arrived at the station. The light cruiser Star's Edge and 2 frigates began spreading out in a standard search pattern, their powerful sensors sweeping the surrounding space for any sign of the escaped human. Attention all vessels in the Omega system. Thexval's voice echoed across all communication frequencies. A dangerous human fugitive has escaped custody and is armed with advanced illegal modifications. Any ship that provides assistance will be considered an enemy of the hegemony. Marcus reached the outer edge of the asteroid field and paused to consider his options. He could try to reach the hyperspace jump point before the hegemony vessels detected him, but their patrol pattern was already covering that approach. The alternative was to go deeper into the unexplored regions of the system, but that would only delay the inevitable confrontation. As he watched the destroyer's searchlights probe the asteroid field, Marcus made his decision. He activated his ship's long-range communication array and sent a coded message to a frequency that officially didn't exist. The response came back within minutes, confirming what he had suspected for months. The hegemony's treatment of humans and other primitive species was about to escalate beyond harassment and tribute collection. Intelligence reports suggested that the Alliance was planning a systematic subjugation campaign designed to turn every non-member species into slave labor for their expanding empire. Haven Prime had been a test case, and Marcus's intervention had disrupted their timeline. Now they wanted him silenced permanently, not just detained. The enhanced interrogation would have been followed by a convenient accident during transport to a hegemony prison facility. But Marcus had no intention of disappearing quietly into their detention system. He powered up the Defiant Echo's communication transmitter to maximum range and sent out a single message on an open frequency that would reach every ship and station within 20 light-years. This is Marcus Chen to all human vessels and settlements. The hegemony has declared war on our people, whether they admit it publicly or not. They're coming for our colonies, our families, and our freedom. It's time to stop being grateful for their protection and start fighting for our right to exist. The message would reach Earth's diplomatic mission within hours, along with every human outpost and independent trader in the sector. Marcus knew it would be dismissed as the ravings of a desperate fugitive by most recipients, but a few would understand the truth behind his words. As hegemony reinforcements continued to arrive in the system, Marcus plotted a course toward the galactic core. If they wanted to hunt him across the stars, he would give them a chase they would never forget. The Defiant Echo disappeared into hyperspace just as the destroyer's sensors finally detected his ion trail, leaving behind a system full of frustrated hegemony commanders and a message that would change the course of human history. Admiral Krex Thor stood on the bridge of the hegemony flagship, Eternal Dominion, studying the tactical display with growing frustration. 3 weeks had passed since the human fugitive Marcus Chen had escaped from Station Omega 7, and despite deploying over 200 vessels in the largest manhunt in hegemony history, they had found nothing but sensor ghosts and false leads. The massive dreadnought represented the pinnacle of hegemony military engineering. At 5 kilometers in length, it carried enough firepower to sterilize entire planets and housed a crew of over 50,000 beings from across the Alliance's member species. The Eternal Dominion had never failed to complete a mission in its 3 decades of service. "Report from the Kepler Nebula Search Grid," announced Lieutenant Vex High, a slender Altarian with pale blue skin and large, multifaceted eyes. "Patrol Groups 7 through 12 have completed their sweep. No signs of the target vessel or any human activity." Krex Thor's forearms gestured in the complex pattern that indicated deep thought among his species, the Thrakari. As one of the hegemony's most experienced military commanders, he had successfully conquered 17 star systems and suppressed countless rebellions among primitive species. The fact that a single human in an obsolete cargo hauler was evading his entire fleet was becoming a personal insult. "What about the deep space monitoring stations?" Krex Thor asked. "Any hyperspace signatures matching the target's engine configuration?" "Negative, Admiral," replied Commander Zeftel from the communications station. The Korathian officer's scales had shifted to a dark purple, indicating his own frustration with the situation. The human's modifications appear to include some form of hyperspace masking technology. "Our sensors cannot distinguish his vessel from normal cargo traffic." In effect, the bridge's main view screen displayed a 3-dimensional map of the local galactic region, with red markers indicating confirmed hegemony positions and yellow dots showing possible escape routes. The search area had expanded to encompass over 50 star systems, stretching the fleet's resources thin, while Marcus Chen seemed to vanish and reappear at will. "Admiral," interrupted the tactical officer, "a mechanical Nexari unit designated as X7 Delta. Incoming priority transmission from the Hegemony Council on Nexus Prime. The view screen shifted to display the imposing figure of Counselor Supreme Ythgarn, the highest-ranking member of the Alliance's ruling body. The ancient being species had evolved beyond physical form millennia ago, now existing as pure energy contained within crystalline matrices. When they chose to manifest visually, they appeared as towering figures of crackling light and geometric patterns. Admiral Krexthor, the Supreme Counselor's voice resonated through harmonic frequencies that bypassed the universal translator entirely. Your failure to capture this human has become an embarrassment to the Hegemony's reputation. Primitive species across the galaxy are beginning to question our authority. Krexthor straightened his posture, all four arms moving to the formal attention position. Supreme Counselor, the target has proven more resourceful than initial intelligence suggested. His technological capabilities exceed standard human parameters by significant margins. Irrelevant, Ythgarn replied, their crystalline form pulsing with irritation. One primitive cannot continue to evade the combined might of our fleet. You will increase the search to 500 vessels and expand operations to include any world that has harbored human populations. The Admiral's secondary eyes widened at the magnitude of the order. 500 ships represented nearly a quarter of the Hegemony's total military force. Enough firepower to invade and conquer entire sectors. Deploying such resources against a single fugitive would be visible to every intelligence agency in the galaxy. Supreme Counselor, Krexthor began carefully. Such a deployment might be interpreted as an act of aggression by neutral systems. The Terran Federation will certainly protest if we begin searching their colonies. The Terran Federation's protests are of no consequence. Ythgarn's image flickered with what might have been amusement. Earth's primitive government lacks the military strength to enforce their objections. This Marcus Chen has become a symbol of resistance among lesser species. We will demonstrate what happens to those who defy hegemony authority. Quote, the transmission ended, leaving Krexthor alone with his thoughts and the monumental task ahead. 500 battlecruisers, destroyers, and support vessels would need to be coordinated across dozens of star systems. The logistics alone would require months of planning. But the Supreme Counselor's orders had been clear. Bring Marcus Chen back, dead or alive, regardless of the cost. 3 days later, the largest fleet ever assembled for a single target began moving toward the Outer Rim territories where human settlements were most vulnerable. The Hegemony's propaganda networks announced the operation as a police action, designed to capture a dangerous terrorist who threatened galactic stability. Marcus Chen watched the news broadcasts from his hiding place in the ruins of an ancient space station orbiting a dead star in the Veil Nebula. The structure had been abandoned for thousands of years after its builders, a species called the Architects, had vanished from the galaxy. Their technology was far beyond anything the current civilizations could produce. But most of their installations remained inactive and incomprehensible. The Defiant Echo was concealed within the station's massive docking bay, its hull covered with metallic dust and debris to blend with the surrounding wreckage. Marcus had spent weeks studying the Architect technology, using his enhanced sensor equipment to probe the station's mysterious systems. What he found changed everything he thought he knew about galactic history. The Architects hadn't vanished. They had been exterminated by an ancient version of the Hegemony, a predecessor alliance that had conquered most of the galaxy before collapsing into civil war. The Architects' final message, preserved in quantum storage matrices throughout their territory, told the story of a peaceful civilization destroyed by beings who believed that only the strongest deserved to survive. The current Hegemony was following the same pattern, systematically eliminating any species that might eventually challenge their dominance. Humans were next on their list, but they represented only the most recent target in a campaign of genocide that had been ongoing for millennia. Marcus downloaded everything he could from the Architect databases, including technical specifications for weapons and defensive systems that could level the playing field between humans and their oppressors. The data was vast, requiring the entire storage capacity of his ship's computer banks, but it represented the key to humanity's survival. As he prepared to leave the ancient station, Marcus detected incoming hyperspace signatures on the edge of the nebula. The hegemony fleet had found him through sheer persistence and overwhelming numbers. Hundreds of ships were dropping out of hyperspace in coordinated waves, their sensors sweeping the nebula for any sign of his presence. The tactical display in his cockpit showed the true scope of the force arrayed against him. 500 warships formed a sphere around the nebula, each vessel capable of destroying his cargo hauler with a single volley. Admiral Krex Thor was taking no chances this time. The entire region would be searched 1 cubic kilometer at a time. "Attention, Marcus Chen." Admiral Krex Thor's voice boomed across all communication frequencies. "You are completely surrounded by the full might of the hegemony fleet. Surrender immediately, and your death will be swift. Continue to resist, and we will hunt down every human settlement in the galaxy as punishment for your crimes." Marcus smiled grimly as he powered up the Defiant Echo's engines. The architect technology he had discovered included more than just weapons. They had developed a form of quantum tunneling that could move a ship instantaneously across vast distances without using hyperspace. The process was dangerous and unpredictable, but it offered the only chance of escaping the hegemony's trap. "This is Marcus Chen to Admiral Krex Thor," he replied, broadcasting on the same frequency. "You want to see what one human can do against impossible odds? Let me show you." The Defiant Echo erupted from the space station's docking bay at maximum acceleration, heading directly toward the center of the hegemony formation. Every weapon in the fleet opened fire simultaneously, turning the space around Marcus's ship into a storm of energy beams and explosive missiles. But the cargo hauler was no longer where their targeting computers expected it to be. Using the architect quantum tunnel technology, Marcus began teleporting randomly throughout the battlefield, appearing behind enemy vessels for microseconds before vanishing again. Each time he materialized, the Defiant Echo's modified weapon systems fired concentrated bursts of energy that overloaded ships' shields and disabled their primary systems. "Target is using unknown technology," reported the tactical officer aboard the Eternal Dominion. "We cannot predict his position or maintain weapon locks." Marcus materialized directly above the flagship's bridge, close enough that the crew could see his ship through the observation windows. For a moment that seemed to last forever, the two vessels hung motionless in space, while Admiral Krex Thor stared at the human who had humiliated his entire fleet. Then the Defiant Echo fired a single shot into the Eternal Dominion's main sensor array before vanishing once again. The massive dreadnought was left blind and helpless as alarms rang throughout its corridors. "All ships, concentrate fire on grid coordinates 7 Alpha 9, Krex Thor commanded. "Destroy everything in that section of space." The fleet obeyed, unleashing enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. But Marcus had already tunneled to a position 3 light minutes away, watching the spectacular display of wasted ammunition from a safe distance. "Admiral Krex Thor." Marcus's voice carried a note of amusement that enraged the Thrakari commander. 500 ships, and you still can't hit one human in an old cargo hauler? Maybe you should consider a career change. The quantum tunnel technology was draining his ship's power reserves rapidly, but Marcus had accomplished his primary objective. The architect data was now stored in a hardened memory core that could survive even if his ship was destroyed. All he needed was to reach a secure location where the information could be transmitted to human resistance networks. As the hegemony fleet struggled to reorganize their search pattern, Marcus engaged the quantum tunnel one final time. The Defiant Echo disappeared from the Veil Nebula, leaving behind 500 warships and their bewildered crews. Admiral Krex Thor stood on his damaged bridge, staring at the empty space where his target had vanished. In 30 years of military service, he had never encountered anything like Marcus Chen's capabilities. The human possessed technology that shouldn't exist, tactics that defied conventional warfare, and a determination that bordered on madness. "Admiral," Lieutenant Vexhai reported quietly, "we're receiving reports from across the fleet. 47 vessels have sustained significant damage to their sensor and weapon systems. The humans' attacks were precisely targeted to disable rather than destroy." Krex Thor's forearms trembled with rage. Marcus Chen could have killed thousands of crew members, but instead he had chosen to demonstrate his superiority without unnecessary bloodshed. The message was clear. Humanity would not be intimidated by superior numbers, and they would fight with honor, even when facing extinction. "Sir," the communications officer added, "we're receiving priority transmissions from Hegemony Command. News of our difficulties has reached the outer colonies. Several primitive species are refusing tribute payments and demanding renegotiation of their protection agreements." The admiral closed his eyes and tried to calculate the full scope of the disaster. One human had made the mighty hegemony fleet look incompetent in front of the entire galaxy. The political ramifications would take years to resolve, and the precedent set by Marcus Chen's escape would inspire resistance movements on hundreds of worlds. "Set course for the Terran system," Krexthor ordered finally. "If we cannot capture Marcus Chen, we will make his entire species pay for his defiance." The massive fleet began moving toward Earth, unaware that their target was already 3 steps ahead of them. Marcus Chen had more than just architect technology at his disposal. He had a plan that would turn the hegemony's own strength against them. The final confrontation was coming, and humanity's survival hung in the balance. The Sol system's early warning sensors detected the hegemony fleet while they were still 2 days out from Earth. 500 warships moving in perfect formation created gravitational anomalies that were impossible to hide, even at interstellar distances. The sight sent panic through the Terran Federation's defense networks and civilian populations alike. Marcus Chen sat in the captain's chair aboard the Defiant Echo, now hidden within the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Around him, the cargo bay had been transformed into a sophisticated command center filled with architect technology and human engineering. Holographic displays showed the positions of every ship in the approaching fleet, while quantum computers processed tactical scenarios at impossible speeds. He wasn't alone anymore. Over the past month, word of his resistance against the hegemony had spread through underground networks across human space. Volunteers had begun arriving at secret coordinates, bringing everything from modified civilian ships to stolen military hardware. The fleet that gathered around Marcus was small compared to the hegemony armada, only 47 vessels of various sizes and capabilities. But each ship carried something the enemy couldn't understand: the desperate courage of people fighting for their freedom and the survival of their species. "Marcus," came the voice of Captain Sarah Valdez over the communication link. Her ship, the New Horizon, had originally been a passenger liner before she modified it with architect defensive systems. "The hegemony formation is maintaining standard invasion pattern. They're headed straight for Earth. Architect of you." Architect of you. Marcus studied the tactical display, watching as red dots, representing enemy vessels, moved inexorably toward the blue dot that marked humanity's homeworld. Admiral Krexthor was following predictable doctrine: establish orbital supremacy around the target planet, then demand unconditional surrender while holding the civilian population hostage. "All ships, maintain communications silence until I give the signal," Marcus transmitted on the encrypted frequency. "Remember, we're not trying to win a conventional battle. We just need to prove that humans won't surrender without a fight." The architect technology had given Marcus insights into quantum physics and space-time manipulation that were centuries beyond current galactic science. But the most important discovery was philosophical rather than technical. The ancient civilization had developed a principle they called inevitable victory. The idea that any sufficiently motivated defender could overcome superior force through innovation, sacrifice, and absolute refusal to accept defeat. As the hegemony fleet approached Earth's outer planets, Marcus activated the first phase of his plan. The Defiant Echo emerged from the asteroid belt, broadcasting a message on all frequencies that would reach every ship and monitoring station in the solar system. "This is Marcus Chen to Admiral Krexthor and the Hegemony Invasion Force. You came here expecting to find a helpless world full of primitives, ready to surrender. Instead, you're going to discover why humans don't know when to quit." The cargo hauler accelerated toward the massive enemy formation at impossible speed, powered by architect quantum drives that warped space-time itself. Behind him, 46 other vessels emerged from hiding places throughout the asteroid belt, each one broadcasting the same message on repeat. Admiral Krexthor watched the approaching human ships from his rebuilt bridge aboard the Eternal Dominion. The Dreadnought's sensor arrays had been repaired and upgraded specifically to counter Marcus Chen's quantum tunneling technology, but the Admiral felt no confidence in his preparations. "Sir," reported the tactical officer, "we're detecting significant gravitational anomalies around the human vessels. Their drive signatures don't match any known technology in our databases." "It doesn't matter," Krex Thor replied, though his forearms betrayed his nervousness with rapid gesture patterns. 47 ships against 500, even with their mysterious technology, they cannot possibly pose a significant threat. The first salvo from the hegemony fleet lit up space like an artificial star, enough energy weapons to glass a continent focused on Marcus's tiny formation, creating a sphere of destruction that should have vaporized every human vessel instantly. When the energy dissipated and the sensors cleared, the tactical display showed something impossible. Not a single human ship had been destroyed. "Report," Krex Thor demanded. "How are they still intact?" "Unknown, sir," the Nexari tactical unit replied with mechanical precision. "Analysis indicates the human vessels briefly shifted into a parallel dimensional space during the attack, allowing the weapons fire to pass through them without causing damage." Marcus smiled as the Defiant Echo phased back into normal space-time. The Architect dimensional shifting technology was even more advanced than their quantum tunneling systems, but it required enormous amounts of energy and precise timing. His fleet could only use it a limited number of times before their power reserves were exhausted. "All ships, execute Pattern Omega," Marcus transmitted. "Time to show them what desperate humans can accomplish." The human fleet scattered in 47 different directions, each vessel using dimensional shifting and quantum tunneling to appear throughout the hegemony formation. Unlike their previous encounter in the Veil Nebula, this time Marcus wasn't content to simply disable enemy systems. The Architect weapons technology he had discovered was designed for a very different purpose. The Defiant Echo materialized directly beside a hegemony battlecruiser, close enough that the two ships almost touched. Marcus fired a single shot from his modified main gun, not at the enemy vessel's hull, but at the quantum structure that held their atoms together. The battlecruiser simply ceased to exist, its matter converted instantly into pure energy that illuminated the entire battlefield. Throughout the formation, other human ships were executing similar attacks. Captain Valdez's New Horizon eliminated 3 destroyers in rapid succession, while a modified mining vessel called Iron Will punched through a heavy cruiser's shields and removed it from existence with surgical precision. The hegemony fleet reacted with disciplined professionalism, adjusting their formations and weapon patterns to counter the dimensional shifting technology. But for every adaptation they made, the humans revealed another innovation. Ships that should have been destroyed regenerated their hull damage using self-repair nanotechnology. Weapons that should have been depleted fired continuously without reloading. "Admiral," the communications officer reported with barely controlled panic, "we've lost 43 vessels in the first 10 minutes of engagement. The human weapons appear to be disintegrating our ships at the molecular level." Krex Thor stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His massive fleet was being systematically dismantled by a handful of modified civilian vessels piloted by the species the hegemony considered too primitive to pose a threat. The humans were fighting with technology that seemed to violate the fundamental laws of physics. "All ships, concentrate fire on the lead vessel," the Admiral commanded. "If we can eliminate Marcus Chen, the others will lose coordination." 200 remaining warships focused their combined firepower on the Defiant Echo, creating an energy bombardment that could have destroyed entire moons. Marcus engaged both dimensional shifting and quantum tunneling simultaneously, phasing partially out of reality while teleporting through space-time. The strain on his ship's systems was enormous. Smoke filled the bridge as overloaded circuits sparked and failed, while the hull groaned under stresses that normal matter wasn't designed to withstand. But the Defiant Echo held together through human engineering and sheer determination. Marcus rematerialized directly above the Eternal Dominion, looking down at Admiral Krex Thor through the flagship's reinforced observation windows. For a moment, the two commanders studied each other across the vacuum of space. One representing an ancient empire built on conquest and domination, the other embodying a young species that refused to accept its assigned place in the galactic hierarchy. Admiral Krexthor, Marcus transmitted on a direct communication link. Your fleet came here to demonstrate hegemony power. Instead, you've shown the galaxy that humans can't be intimidated by superior numbers or advanced technology. Every species watching this battle will remember that 500 of your best ships couldn't defeat 47 modified cargo haulers. The Defiant Echo fired its quantum disintegration weapon at the Eternal Dominion's main reactor core. The massive dreadnought began breaking apart from the inside as its power systems collapsed into quantum foam. Admiral Krexthor had just enough time to activate the emergency evacuation protocols before his flagship ceased to exist. Across the battlefield, the remaining hegemony vessels were retreating in disorder. The disciplined formation that had entered the Sol system was now a scattered collection of damaged ships fleeing toward the hyperspace jump points. Less than 100 vessels remained operational, and most of those were streaming atmosphere and debris from hull breaches. Marcus opened a system-wide communication channel, addressing every monitoring station and civilian population within 50 light-years. This is Marcus Chen to all sentient beings in local space. Today, 500 hegemony warships attacked a single star system defended by 47 human vessels. Not one enemy ship completed its mission. The age of hegemony dominance is ending. The human fleet regrouped near Earth's moon, their battered ships bearing the scars of the most one-sided naval battle in galactic history. 17 human vessels had been lost during the engagement, but their sacrifice had demonstrated something that would reshape the political balance of the entire galaxy. Within hours, reports of the battle were spreading through hyperspace communication networks. Species that had submitted to hegemony authority for centuries began demanding independence. Resistance movements that had operated in secret for generations suddenly found themselves with popular support and advanced technology transmitted from architect databases. In the weeks that followed, Marcus Chen became the most wanted being in hegemony space and the most celebrated hero among the galaxy's oppressed populations. The technology he shared led to the formation of the Free Worlds Alliance, a coalition of species dedicated to overthrowing the old order and establishing a more equitable galactic civilization. Admiral Krexthor survived the destruction of his flagship, but his military career was effectively over. He spent his remaining years in exile, studying the battle recordings and trying to understand how one primitive human had achieved the impossible. His final report to the Hegemony Council contained a warning that would prove prophetic. The humans possess something we cannot defeat through superior firepower or tactical doctrine, Krexthor wrote. They have the ability to transform impossible situations into opportunities for innovation. They refuse to accept limitations that other species consider absolute. This makes them the most dangerous opponents we have ever faced. Marcus Chen stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt Defiant Echo, watching Earth's blue marble rotate slowly against the starfield. The ancient architect technology had given humanity the tools to fight back, but the courage to use those tools had come from something uniquely human: the stubborn refusal to surrender in the face of overwhelming odds. The war for galactic freedom was just beginning, but the first victory belonged to a species that didn't know when to quit. The hegemony had sent 500 battlecruisers to crush human resistance, and not one had returned victorious. That lesson would echo through the stars for generations to come, inspiring countless beings to stand up against tyranny and fight for their right to determine their own destiny. In the end, the greatest human weapon wasn't advanced technology or superior tactics. It was the simple belief that freedom was worth any sacrifice, and that even the smallest resistance could topple the mightiest empire if it refused to give up. The galaxy would never be the same.